let me try to pull us all back
And if
up.
they were two different devices being used by two different people to execute this plan, I think that it would make a lot of sense for the hand signal that we see right beforehand. Because if it was just going to be a shot, or if it was just going to be one device that did it, why the need for the hand signal for any kind of, synchronization?
Right.
I think
And I also want. Go ahead.
Right.
Well, I was just going to say, I also wonder if part of the, synchronization, and maybe the reason perhaps that even Rick Cutler, some people say like, oh, well, it was just a distraction because he seemed to be delayed. Well, what if his intent was to do something that was, 1 or 2 seconds later than, the rest, right? He wasn't intended to do it at the exact same time as something else. And so no matter whatever that action may be. But yeah, I mean, when he does that motion, that motion doesn't mean that it's just a palm pistol shot. It could be something else related to
with Rick Cutler.
With Cutler.
I think Rick was just getting ready to jump. That's what I think he was doing. He was just getting ready to jump.
Well, he was clearly doing something. And when I saw this, I thought that maybe he was triggering something. Maybe he was responsible for triggering the sound to make it sound like a gunshot. I don't know. But after all these months and analyzing all these different anomalies and everything that people did, it's hard to just say that everything's like a coincidence, especially when there's that many. And it kind of seems like they were just muddying the water and trying to make the scene look very messy on purpose so that people would be all confused and, go down this rabbit hole and this theory and that, and that's kind of like how it played out.
Smoke and mirrors.
Yes.
Rick kept his eyes on Charlie, the target, the entire time.
Yeah, his reaction to it, he went like that. He did like one of these.
Yeah.
Where it was, I don't know. Like people interpret it different ways. Like, like I said that it looked like he was smiling. Someone said that he was making some kind of grin. I mean, I don't know. I saw what I saw. I know a lot of people agree with me. I don't know if he was actually triggering some kind of device, but there is no doubt in my mind that he did that motion knowing that it was going to be on camera and that it was going to get put out. Like, I believe that whatever happened to Charlie that day, whether he's dead or alive, that there was a coordinated effort to cause this like mass confusion and all these different conspiracy theories. And I think that it was to take our attention off of other things going on in the world. And it was very successful.
Yeah, clearly. At 6 months, here we are.
Yeah.
What I just thought of as you guys were saying that was, why do we need the hand signal? Why can't it just be on a verbal cue? Why can't it just be like everyone knows the script? And when Hunter Kozak says, or I think Charlie says, counting or not counting gun violence, and then Hunter says, great, boom. Why can't we just put in the script, tell everyone, this is when it happens, at this point in the script? Why can't we just do that?
Yeah, to muddy the water.
Well, another part of, what's that?
To muddy the water. They that's my point. They didn't have to do all this. They didn't have to do a signal. They could have coordinated this any other way.
I think there's maybe a better explanation, and here it is.
Oh, great.
When we're in the meeting, allegedly maybe at Fort Huachuca, I imagine that you're the person planning this operation. We're going to fake Charlie Kirk's death, and we're in this meeting right now, and we're thinking about, okay, when are we going to do it? You can literally choose your last words. Charlie Kirk is a devout Christian, evangelical Christian, and at some point, someone is going to ask him, what do you want your last words to be? Bayes, what do you think his last words would be?
I don't know. Again, that's a big thing to ask. I don't know.
Keli, I've already told you, so I can't ask you, but a Christian would say, Jesus Christ is Lord. That's what a Christian would pretty much unanimously say. You want your last words to be, Jesus Christ is Lord.
But that's
as a
operating
Christian.
under operating under the assumption that all of this was Charlie's doing and Charlie's mission. If Charlie was some kind of asset, like let's just assume that he wasn't just some kind of speaker, but let's assume that he was some type of intelligence asset, especially, and I don't think it's that far fetched with everything that we're seeing with Turning Point USA now, that there seems to be a real, military operation going on with Turning Point USA that's involving churches. And a lot of the people involved, especially Erica and her family, have deep intelligence ties. So if Charlie is not dead and it was staged, then it is very plausible to believe that he was an intelligence asset, which means that this is a military operation. And I don't think he would have any say whatsoever. I mean, maybe over his last words, but I think that it would be done to
What they
drive the
did
narrative,
immediately,
which is
but
what they did
immediately. Sorry, you're breaking up. I can't tell when you're done talking. Are you done talking? You're breaking
Yes.
up. Okay, I'll go now. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but it sounded like you were done and you weren't. My apologies. Immediately after the assassination that was allegedly faked, they did their memorial service for him, and it was extremely focused on religion. It was basically a gospel-centered Trump rally. Basically, it was hyper evangelical. It was supposed to be a revival, is the word that they called it. So that appears to be their mindset going into it, and like that seems to be their primary goal. If in fact they wanted it to be, if in fact they wanted the narrative to be that Charlie Kirk was killed by someone who hated Christians, that matches the ceremony. The ceremony doesn't match a transgender person. It matches a religious motivated crime because it was hyper religious. I can't prove that to you. I'm just noting the similarity there.
I
Now,
think
when we
it's
go back,
I think it's multifaceted, though. I think that they wanted the narrative to be that it was the left, and reinforce the culture war of the left versus right, and then use the religious aspect of it after the fact. That they're like two separate things. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Sure, that's one interpretation. Here's my interpretation. It's a possible interpretation. It's not necessarily true, but this is my theory. When I listened to the entire tape of the guy Charlie Kirk was talking to before Hunter Kozak, Charlie Kirk says Jesus Christ is the Lord 3 times. That's what they're talking about. Religion, and Charlie Kirk says it. Jesus Christ is the Lord, Jesus Christ is the Lord, Jesus Christ is the Lord. I think that was part of a script, possibly, if this theory is right. And I think that when he said that, that's when it was supposed to happen. Because when I look at Brian Harple, when I look at Dan Flood, Superman Dan, when I look at all the people behind the scenes there, I'm not seeing the same hand signals that I saw before Hunter Kozak, but I see a lot of communication going on. This is the stuff that Blake Bednar's alerts to, with the stuff in Brian Harple's pocket, your comms are down, all this stuff. And then Dan Flood going up to Charlie, talking to him, whispering in his ear, and the sound guy whispering in his ear.
Even Terrell comes over and speaks to him from the other side. And then also tells him that he needs to put his mic down.
Yeah, and Dan Flood especially. There's no reason for Dan Flood to be in Charlie Kirk's ear. I think what was happening was that was their initial go. They were supposed to go on Jesus Christ as Lord, I think. And what they were communicating in the back channel was, oh shit, can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
You're fine. Yes. And in fact, actually, I want to pull this up because I see Sally, said his last words to Henry Dells were, God bless you. I love Mormons.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very interesting.
Yeah. So, oh God, I lost my train of thought again.
Sorry, I'm just like, wow, if I didn't even realize that, but if that were the case, I mean, given all of the things, like, whoa, if that was the case, and to your point, Jordan, if it was meant to happen during the first speaker, during Henry, like, whoa, okay. So, sorry.
Yeah. So, in my theory, I think that it was supposed to be on Jesus Christ as Lord. The reason Dan Flood is whispering in his ear is, oh, shoot, there was an issue maybe with getting the shooter on the on the roof at the same time. Maybe there's a pedestrian walking by and he's like, "No, I can't take this. I can't take this go signal. I have to go later. They're going to see me. They're going to call cop or whatever. I'm going to be seen because someone's walking by at the wrong spot." Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. I think there was some kind of malfunction early in the count, not at T minus 10 seconds, not at T minus 5 seconds, probably at T minus 3 minutes or something, well before we see the characteristic hand signals like the Dan Flood, well before any of that stuff. T minus 3 minutes, you have an issue, and that's what all that communication was. It was supposed to, the initial go was supposed to be Jesus Christ is Lord. T minus 3 minutes. Oh no, something bad happened. We have to hold. Think of it as a rocket launch. We're holding at T minus 3 minutes. Oh no, what's our next go point? Okay, now it's fixed, but we had to hold. We have to find a new go point. What's the next go point? Dan Flood whispers in Charlie's ear, "This is your next go point." And when Dan Flood is doing his hand signal, he's communicating with everyone else. This is the go point, because maybe they didn't communicate. Maybe they didn't plan that out in advance. And why do you need so many people communicating? Because I don't know yet. I actually don't know exactly why Dan Flood needs to be doing this. I don't know who that's for. I do think it's a hand signal, but I don't know exactly who that's for yet. I think
it's without a doubt a hand signal. I don't know if you've seen the video. Baron Coleman has covered it. I've covered it. A couple of months before this incident, I don't know if it was May, but there was another event where Charlie's giving a speech and Dan Flood is behind him, and Charlie starts talking about I think he was referring to sports, but he says, like, that in baseball players get call signs, and then once he talked about call signs, Dan Flood looked one way, looked the other day, and he did the signal, and he smiled. So it obviously means something. And for Dan Flood, it was an inside joke to whoever he was looking at. And because he looked in both directions, I said that he's standing on the opposite side on September 10th with whatever happened. But I said that if he's glancing in the direction of two different people months before and doing the same exact signal, that there is a very good chance that on September 10th, even if he was standing on the other side, that before he does the signal, he looks this way, looks that way. I mean, I think there's a high probability he was probably looking at the same people that he did the inside joke with.
Yeah.